what's different to this kind of economic downturn compared to previous ones is the fact it's cast such a wide net that it's not just people who unfortunately always struggle, tick along the bottom. It's people who've perhaps never had to struggle before, or when there has been a recession, they've kind of tightened their belt, they've cut back a bit, they've dipped into their savings. What we have seen over the last few months is a tidal wave of price increases right across the board from all angles, whether it's rent, mortgages, food, and of course, energy bills being the big one. And we spoke to a mother in our film, a single mum of 3, and she said something which really struck me, which was that life for me has not become about living, but surviving. And one thing that kept coming up time and time again was this fear, a genuine fear of kind of getting through the week. And we talked, I think you talked in the introduction about the extremes people are going to. We spoke to one woman working full-time, and a lot of the people we spoke to are working full-time here. They're not on state benefits, they're on universal credit. They are working hard as they can. And one woman, her rent went up by 45%, and the only property she could find were garages in the area she lived. We had one man, Neil, who's owned 4 butcher shops that his grandma opened in the 1950s. He's run them for 40 years. It's his life's work. His energy bills went from £30,000 to £70,000. He has now closed his butchers. It's over. His life's work has been washed away by this crisis. And so, yes.
And then, of course, he's going to be worried about his future. He's going to be worried about what kind of health and retirement he can deal with. It's terrifying.
And for him as well, what weighed on his mind, I met Neil back in September and I revisited him for the film back in January, and he was most concerned about the staff that he's had to lay off because they're not just people he employs, they're his friends. I think that's what we talk. I think for as journalists, we like kind of neat catch-all phrases like the cost of living crisis. I think what we've seen in this film is the real impact, and it is a crisis. It is people genuinely worried how they're going to get through. It's also, and we've heard from the government, that inflation will hopefully come down this year, that price will start to stabilise. The problem with this crisis is that it's creating consequences beyond it, that people are starting to borrow money for the first time off family and friends, credit cards, going into debt they're going to live with for a very long time.